Hello friends, welcome to the MARE podcast. Before we get started, you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Don't forget that you can find more about the MARE project at www.marehamburg.com, and you can support the project and this podcast through Patreon. All the links are in the description. Enjoy! Hello friends, welcome to another episode of the MARE podcast. It is a pleasure to have everyone here again with me, and I have Kato Nees here with me in the podcast today. Hello Kato, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
It is a pleasure to have you here. So, Kato, you're now a doctoral student at M.A.R.E University, correct?
Yes, correct. Second year.
Okay, excellent. Second year doctoral student at X. But you're originally where are you from originally?
I'm from Belgium. I was born near Antwerp, so I'm from the Flemish part, my mother language is Dutch.
Okay, excellent. So can you please tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into archaeology and your studies, maybe?
Okay. So as I said, I'm from Belgium. And I did my archaeology studies. I started them in Belgium. I did a 3-year of bachelor in KU Leuven in university there. And I also did a master in archaeology at KU Leuven. And after that, I came to France, to Aix-Marseille University, to do the Master of Maritime and Coastal Archaeology, or the M.A.R.E, which was another 2 years. And then since 2024, I started my PhD also in Aix-Marseille University in naval archaeology specifically.
Excellent. Okay, So what made you go into maritime archaeology? What was the transition? Did you do maritime for your master's as well, your bachelor's?
No, for the bachelor's and the master that I did in Belgium, it was like general archaeology. Mm-hmm. And I got into that because I was most interested in school in languages and history as a kid. So I went to an open day to university and they presented archaeology and I was like, sure, I'll try it out. Let's see how it goes. And as for the maritime aspect, my family has had a sailboat for as long as I can remember. So every summer we're sailing the rivers in the Netherlands and in Belgium, the English Channel and most part of the North Sea. So it's kind of like a family trait to be into boats. And while I was in my first or second year of bachelor in archaeology, we went on vacation to England and there was a maritime museum there that talked about archaeology and at some point started an exhibition about underwater archaeology. And I was looking at this I could never do that. This looks so cool. And I started thinking but I'm already in archaeology. Maybe I can. And then it just kept going in my mind. And immediately after coming back from vacation and starting the school year, I started diving lessons just to see how it would go. And never looked back, never regretted, just kept going.
Wow. No, that's very nice to hear. What maritime museum is the one in Greenwich? The one in London? That maritime museum, or is it a different maritime museum?
I don't remember. It was a very small maritime museum. I remember it being near the Isle of Wight. There is a...
Oh, okay.
We were there on vacation and it was just in an old military barracks that they repurposed them as a museum and they had small exhibitions. So it was really a museum in the middle of nowhere. I think I'm never going to find it again. It was just destiny, serendipity moment.
Excellent. Maybe it never existed, maybe it was just all a dream and then you needed to get into maritime archaeology and that was all of it. No,
it was just a sign to get me to start.
Yeah, exactly. So then you go into X and you do that 2-year program, the M.A.R.E. How did you find that? How was that?
It was a very nice program because I looked at all of them, all over, also the one in Southampton or in Malta. And in the end, I decided that I liked the one in Aix-Marseille University the best because it was combined in English and French. And I already said, as a kid, I already was into languages. So I was I can combine my passion of doing archaeology and also learning more French and doing more English and everything at the same time. And they just have a very good program also with doing the practical courses. So yeah, I came here to do the master and then immediately tried staying here to also do the PhD. So yeah, good experience.
Yes, and you stayed and you managed and you've been doing a PhD for 2 years. So let's talk a bit about that. Would you like to tell us a bit about what your PhD is on? What are you doing?
Yes. So the title of my PhD is Persistence and Innovation in Shipbuilding, Studying Navigation in the Northeastern Adriatic in Antiquity. So basically, I'm focusing on characterizing a specific shipbuilding tradition from the Northeastern Adriatic that has like the sewn boats. And I'm trying to understand the sewing techniques used in this shipbuilding tradition and why it persisted in this region specifically in a time and for such a long time, because the wrecks of my like research corpus go from the late Bronze Age until like the Imperial period, so a very long stretch of time. And why this sewing technique was still in use while mortise and tenon was already widely adopted across the Mediterranean.
Mm. Okay, so for the people who don't know shipbuilding or are not archaeologists, what is the sewing technique? What is that?
So basically, I think in the Mediterranean, there is two most well-known shipbuilding techniques. Like you have mortise and tenon, where you take two planks and where you want to attach them, you're going to make a hole or a mortise in each of the plank sides. And then you insert the tenon inside both of them and block them together with like two pegs in each of the planks. And this way, this is a way if you do it all over the side of the plank to get two planks to stay together. And another way of doing it is to put two planks side by side, make holes near the end, and pass a rope or like something more flexible material. Like sometimes they used willow bark and to like sew the planks together. And this is a sewing technique that it's used all over the world. There are so many different types. In the Mediterranean itself, there is like I think 6 different traditions that have been identified and already very widely studied. And I'm focusing on one specific one that has like a very simple way of sewing it together. Because, for example, you have a Greek tradition that has like some well-known boats, as like the Jules Verne wrecks that were found in Marseille. And there you can see that like the sewing, it was very complex. Like they passed on one side, they came back, they were through every hole, they go like several times, and it's like very complex to put it all together. But with the Northeastern Adriatic traditions, they make just the holes and they pass the rope through once. And for some reason, just doing this works, and they found like at least 9 wrecks that were made this way. And even like this simple type of technique, like it worked well enough to use this for a very long time.
Okay. No, that's very interesting. Okay, tell me again, what is the time frame? Start from the Bronze Age and goes until when?
Yes, so there is one wreck in my study, like my corpus d'études, like of the wrecks that I'm studying, which is Zamratia wreck. And this one is from the late Bronze Age, so between 12th to 10th century BC. And so this has this sewing technique. And the other wrecks in my that I'm going to study, they are more like from the 2nd century BC until the 2nd century AD, so more Roman period. And this one wreck, the oldest that we have, Zamratia, it is the oldest known sewn boat in the Mediterranean that was found. And it just like, it's a sort of like an ancestor of these like Roman, these wrecks from like local wrecks found in Croatia. They're not made by the Romans, but they are made during the period that the Romans were there. Like it's a very specific distinction, but
yeah, no, but it's very interesting because you see the people, you know, despite being under the Romans or under anyone else, their shipbuilding techniques just keep on going, and I think it's a very good attestation.
Yeah, they have like their their local way of like making the boats, and they keep using it from like the Bronze Age until then, and like only in that region have we found this type of sewing. It's very interesting to see like the way they used it for themselves.
Do you think it has to do with some kind of maritime superstition, or is it works? So because it works, we keep on using it because it works.
I think mostly that, because they have like the concept of maritime cultural landscape of Westerdaal, where the idea is that boats are adapted to the landscape where they were made. So you're going to make the boat that is going to be able to sail the best in the region that you are. And like, so this is the one idea, to adapt your boat to the space, the sailing space that is available. But there's also the idea of that your boat, you're gonna be able make it according to the materials that you have. Like the mortise and tenon ships, they could be made because they had all of this wood available, they had the knowledge, and they were able to make this. But the more local shipyards, they have the sewing, which they would also use for maybe other types of construction in their villages. And it's just a more cost-effective and easier, simpler way of making their boats with the materials that are on site.
Okay. No, that is very interesting. So, what kind of boats are we talking about? Are we talking about very big transport, cargo, commercial vessels, or are we talking smaller, kind of like local boats?
It would be more smaller local boats, like the wreck I'm working on right now, Zambratia, like the one of the Bronze Age. In my reconstruction, the boat would have been about 11 meters long and like 3 meters wide. So it's a boat that would have been used like on the sea for coastal navigation, but not really to go across the whole Mediterranean, is the theory, which is what we would like to test during the PhD to like know this for sure, like what is the kind of voyages that this boat would have been able to make.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. So you talked about reconstruction. Are you digitally reconstructing the boats?
Yes, yes. So the methods that I use is to study the shipwreck, make a 3D model of the wrecks as they were found in situ. So to model every element of the wreck that we have, to be able to move them so I can try to put them back in their original place. Because very often underwater, the wrecks will have like some side formation processes or a deformation that will warp the wood and like have it like not anymore in its original shape or position. So by modeling this, we're going to try to put it back together to find the original shape of the boat. One way to help doing this is to make like a maquette or a physical scale model where we take all of the information that we have from the wreck and we try to extrapolate to fill in the parts that we don't have. So for example, for Zembratia, we have about 30% of the wreck, but we have the keel on one side up until the sheer strake, which is the last plank of the hull. So with all this information, we can like say like, okay, we know the height of the boat, we know everything that we need for one side of the hull. And logically, hull is symmetrical on both sides. So we can mirror it to the other side to complete that part that we don't have. And then in the spirit of minimal reconstruction, to try to find the original shape in the most logical and least complex way possible, we also said that like, okay, now we have one side, we mirror it to the other side, and we now have one extremity. And in the way of like making it the most logical possible, we will mirror it also to the other side to have a boat that is symmetrical on both extremities as well. And this way, with 30%, we can quite easily and well argumented recreate a shape for the original ship from what we have.
Okay. Very nice. Oh, well, that's very interesting. And so, of course, for you to be able to do that, that means that the ships have already been excavated. Like secondary question, well excavated? What's the situation on the ground? Are the ships in the water still?
Most of them are in the water still. The Zambratia, the Bronze Age one, it has come out of the water in 2023. There was like a whole project to remove it, and it's now undergoing conservation and will in the future be in an exhibition in Pula in a new part of the museum. But most of the other wrecks are still underwater. But they have been excavated already like for many years, several campaigns and like very extensively by in the program of ADRI boats, which is a project by Centre Camille Juillan that they made in partnership with the Museum of Istria in Pula and also the Ministry of Culture and Media in Croatia. And there's like several archaeologists together from both French and Croatian sides to go on the site and do very detailed excavation. And from that, we can have like the drawings they made, the observations they made. They do photogrammetry, it's very detailed. Sometimes they take pieces out of the water to take 3D scans. And all of this information I can use to make my 3D models and also the maquettes, like the physical scale.
Yeah. So that's important. I mean, you don't need to go down there yourself and do the photogrammetry yourself if they already done the photogrammetry and they have the models. So that's, I guess, very, very useful
Yeah, so
research.
all the information was already available, and I was lucky enough to be able to come with them in 2023 when they were taking out the Zambratia rig. So this one I have seen in person. And the other ones I have also like did some small missions to like go there after they were conserved to like maybe do some scanning or like help them with the packaging and to be like, oh, this is the boat I will be working on, and like really touch the wood and be able to work on it. But
Wow.
it was
So
not really like in the PhD to also do the excavation myself. Like all of it was already done.
yeah, no, that's very interesting. So how did you get the boat out of the water? Now I'm curious. Like, how did the whole how did you get the whole boat out of the water? That would be like 11 meters long. So it's a long. It's a bit long. No.
Yes, like the original boat was 11 meters long, but we only have like 30%. So the part that we have was, okay, it was still maybe like 5 to 7 meters long. So already still a big chunk of the boat. And when you're taking the boat out of the water, you need to make certain choices to make sure that you have like, you're gonna destroy some parts anyway, because archaeology is destruction. But you need to get it out in a way that preserves it as best as possible and in the exact shape or way that it is right at that moment in situ. So a whole project was made, and specifically by Giulia Boeto, who worked on this, and Pierre Poveda, and like a whole team of Centre Camille Juan, where they made support for each of the planks based on the photogrammetry and all the information from the excavation before. And they really planned very detailed beforehand, like, okay, we're going to take the plank apart with the least amount of cuts as needed. Like they cut, there were 3 frames that were found in situ, and like they removed those one by one on a specific like custom made support. And then after that, they cut the plank there where the frame was. So one day when it's going to be back in the museum, they're just going to put the frame back on it, and you won't be able to see that it was cut there. So like this, they really like measured, like we're going to make a cut here, and this part is a support that was assembled beforehand, like we did like the laser cutting of, it was like a whole 3D model that they made with how the support was supposed to be and how it was supposed to be cut out from plastic with the laser scanning, and it was a whole thing. So when we arrived there in Zambratia to take the boat out, we only had 2 weeks, but like every minute was planned. Like right now we're doing this and this is what needs to happen. And it was
Oh,
like a
wow.
machine, and it was very cool for me as a student to be there and be like, okay, wow, this is how it's supposed to go.
Wow. I mean, it sounds very, very cool, and it sounds like, it's one of those things that it's so delicate and it's so careful, and it's, I don't know, I guess what all of us have in our heads when we think about archaeology, and it's like it's a very delicate job that you need to make certain choices, and then you cut a boat in pieces to take it out of the water. But no, that's very interesting, and it's very good that you were there, I guess, and you were part. So who's your supervisor? Is it Boeto? What was it? What's her name?
Yes, Giulia Boeto. She's right now the
Julia.
director of the Centre Camille Juan, and she's the one who's also doing the project of Adri boats already for years, the partnership between the French and Croatians. And she's for like the wreck, she's like the specialist on the Sewn boats. And for the 3D part and the reconstructing and all of that technical, I have Pierre Poveda in the labo, who is expert in his field as well, to help me figure out how I'm going to do everything.
No, that sounds very, very fun. So how many more years do you have? Is it like a 4-year program?
It's a 3-year program. So with how far I am right now, it's I'm like halfway through. And there is still a lot more to be done. But already like some of the discoveries like that I didn't know at all before I started are already like, okay, now it's starting to sound familiar. And I really am starting to get the idea of like, okay, maybe I do know what I'm doing. But there's still a lot more to be continued on, because for now I have like a 3D model that we made. Okay, this is a reconstruction of the ship, but now I need to start the calculations on it, because I now have a ship, but I want to know how did it sail. And to know that, you need to put it in a program like the Rhinoceros 3D. They have a separate plugin in there, Orca 3D, which is for designing ships. and then you can give it the shape of your hull, and ask it like, can you please tell me if the hull, it was made from this wood, so this is the weight. Can you tell me like the hydrostatic calculations, like what is its stability in the water, where would the water line be when it's floating, and in different conditions, like if the ship was empty, if the ship was just with ballast, or completely like loaded to maximum capacity. So to start those calculations to really get the information on how did the ship react when it was in water. And we're right now about starting on that, and it's a lot of math and very complex, but I'm very excited.
I'm scared just by listening to you talking about it. No, the numbers scare me a bit. But yeah, but it's also fascinating. And then you have to, I guess, you have to do all the reading and like put the boats into context and read about the Romans and the Roman conquest of the area at the time, and do all that, which all sounds very fascinating and all very nice.
Yes.
But yeah,
a lot of reading, and they've been laughing at me that I've not nearly done enough reading, and there's still so much to come. And like all the other PhD students are looking at me like, you still have so much to do, Kato. And I'm like, I know.
It's okay. Hey, we in here we're all about supporting PhD students and like no putting peer pressure on them. So anyway, talking about no putting peer pressure on you. So what do you want to do with archaeology? Do you want to where do you want to go further? Do you want to stay in academia? Is it something you do out of fun and then you maybe not for you anymore? How do you see yourself in the future?
Good question. Because for the academia, when I started doing archaeology, I never imagined that I was going to end up doing a PhD. I thought like that was only for like the smartest people to do. I'm never going to get there. But in the end, here I am. So we're going to see where it takes me. And I would love to stay in archaeology and continue with the 3D modeling and with the ships, and because I'm really interested in like all the boats and how they work, and also the making of the 3D reconstructions. It's something I'm right now doing it on like boats of Bronze Age and Antiquity, but you can make it for all wrecks that you find, and it's the goal for all wrecks. Like when you find it underwater and you start your archaeological excavation and to study it, what you want to know in the end is, what did this boat look like? So to do the 3D and the reconstruction and the modeling, it's the goal of any naval study that you're going to do, of naval archaeology study. So I find it very interesting to be in this field where they combine so many different kind of techniques and programs and knowledge. I would love to keep doing it.
I mean, yeah. I think when you do a PhD, before you do a PhD, you think, oh yeah, all the smart people do a PhD, and then you start the PhD and you realize that that's not true. Or if you want to see it in like the positive way, we're all so smart, so that's why we're all doing PhD. So congratulations on being the smart person in the room.
Thank you. Very good to know.
Anyway. Yeah, but this has been entirely fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to like hearing more about it. I don't know. Did you like publish any of the finds? Is there any of this like your work published somewhere? Can we see it somewhere or not yet? Or you keep it close to heart?
Not yet. I did, I think, one poster in the last ESBSA conference about my master, which is about one of the shipwrecks that is now also in my PhD. It's like Porridge, also from Croatia. And I think in the ESBSA publication, there's also going to be an article about that, but it's like just a few pages. And about Zamratia, this is like one of the most like important boats in the Adriboats project. So probably soon there is going to be maybe they would like to write a new book about everything they did with taking the wreck out and all the work about the conservation. And maybe, cross my fingers, there's going to be like a chapter about like, oh, we made a reconstruction and made by Kato, and this is what it looks like. So we'll see for the future.
Yes, of course. Of course, as they should. But yeah, anyway, this has been entirely fascinating, very important work. And as you said, I think this is the most crucial thing, is that the goal for all the shipwrecks that we find is that one day we have a reconstruction of them and we know like how they look with us needing to go down there and find them or like take them out of the water. So I think it's a very important work. And obviously there's a lot of math and a lot of calculations and a lot of like measuring. And thank you for doing it, because I don't know, if you're asking me, I would never have done it. So thank you for doing it. But other than that,
With pleasure. I'll let you know how it goes when I do the calculations and how much of a headache it's gonna give me.
this was entirely fascinating, and I think you're doing a very important job. And I wanted to thank you for being in the podcast, and for sharing all this with us. And I hope your PhD goes well, and I hope you finish it on time, and I hope you're very happy with it. Is there anything you'd like to say to close the episode?
I hope so as well.
Mm.
No, I hope so as well that it goes very well. And I'll let you know in the end after I'm starting on the calculations, like how it goes and how much of a headache it's going to give me. But yeah, in the end, it's all about boats, and the excitement for boats is still there. So the passion and the curiosity, we're at least continuing with that.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening to another episode of the MARE podcast, brought to you by the Honor Foundation. And I'll see you all again in 2 weeks.